Hey guys, welcome back to Mom's Cherished Home. Today we are going to make a really awesome recipe. I cannot wait to try this. I was watching Magnolia Home. I don't know if there's any fans out there, Joanna Gaines, but I'm a fan. I really love her new cooking show on Magnolia Home. The recipes are incredible, and one of the recipes I just seen recently was this cherry crisp. It's actually cherry almond crisp. We're going to get started and we're going to make this today. However, we are going to take and half the recipe because there's not but a couple of us here, and we don't want to make a huge recipe and then have lots left over that's going to go to waste. With 1 pound of these dark sweet cherries frozen, we got those at Costco. And that is, the first thing we're going to do is put 1 pound of those in this saucepan. And then we're going to mix up our dry ingredients for the crisp. And I'll be back. Right, now for the topping, it calls for oats. I'm going to tell you exactly what's in that recipe. So what we're going to do today is 1/2 cup of rolled oats. And a half of a 3/4 cup of packed light brown sugar. We're going to do 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon and 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground ginger. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of butter. And we have unsalted butter, and her recipe calls for salted butter, but we're going to just put a pinch of salt in to make up for the salted butter. And then 1/2 cup of slivered almonds, which we will probably put in 1/4 cup of slivered almonds. So that is the top, and we're going to make that right now. Okay, guys, now we have done half of the rolled oats, so we have a little over 1/2 cup. I'm going to add just a little bit more of that. The same thing with the brown sugar. It calls for 3/4 cup, and I've got about 1/2 cup there packed brown sugar. We're going to go ahead and add that in. And next it called for 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. We're going to go ahead and add a 1/4 teaspoon. You guys can see that. And we'll go ahead and add that in. And I'll put in a heaping. We're going to make this, like I said, we're halving this recipe. And then the ginger. There's your ginger. And then the next step is I'm going to add a pinch of salt because the recipe calls for salted butter. We're going to just add a pinch. All right, and now the original recipe called for 6 tablespoons of butter. We're going to add 3, and you want to cut those up. So we're going to cut this up into little bitty squares. And because I didn't use salted butter, we put in a pinch of butter, which you've seen, and that's how we're going to do that. All right. And you want to cut these up so the butter can incorporate. All right, guys, now we have chopped up the butter as good as we can with the knife. We're going to go ahead and add that in there. And we're going to add the almonds in last. And you're going to want one of these pastry cutters. I don't know if y'all know what these are, but back in the old days, you put butter or shortening in your flour to make pie crusts. And people still use these from time to time. And so we're going to just get this ready. And let me get my almonds ready. We've got slivered almonds, sliced almonds, excuse me, sliced, not slivered. And instead of 1/2 cup, we're going to go ahead and just put a little bit less than that. Let me put some back in the bag. For the top, yeah, that's maybe a little bit more. All right, and that's what the amount of almonds that we're going to put. And this is on the top for the topping. We're going to make the topping first. We're going to put it in the freezer until we make the cherry mixture. So you're going to take your pastry cutter and incorporate your butter into the mixture. Stir it all up, man, and it is cold, so it's gonna stick to the pastry cutter here. There we go. You just don't want that in there. You want that in the bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my spoon first and then use this cutter. That butter is pretty cold, so it's not gonna do a really good job. But see, I've got everything off of there now, so we'll go ahead and stir this up. And then we will use the pastry cutter to incorporate more of that butter in there. And that just helps mix up the butter inside this, so when it cooks, it's super yummy. Go ahead and take that back off. You don't want this stuck in your pastry cutter. And like I said, the butter is super cold. The recipe calls for room temperature butter, and that's why this is doing that, because it is not room temperature. But we're gonna go ahead and take it and put it in the freezer, and we'll go ahead and add the almonds. Mix those in with a spoon. You don't want to break those up really. Then we're going to add, this is our crumb mixture that we're going to add on the top of the crisp. And this is going to be a cherry almond crisp. So those almonds, that's going to be just really delicious. So right now we're going to put this in the freezer. Let this stay cold. You want those little butter pieces to be cold when you put it on top of the cherries. And we'll be right back. All right, we are back with the cherry mixture. And so you can see these cherries. Oh my gosh, y'all, look at those. I had a bite of one of these. They are so good. You don't need a lot of cherry. And as I mentioned earlier, we are halving the recipe. So we've got 1 pound of cherries. We're going to have 1/4 cup of sugar. We're going to have a teaspoon, actually 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract, because the original recipe called for a full teaspoon. And anybody that's worked with almond extract, if you know anything about that, this is so strong. So you really want to be careful using almond extract. You really just want to do a little bit. You don't want to do too much because it will be overpowering. So we've got 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. Then we are going to zest 1/2 lemon, and we've got a small lemon, so we'll probably zest quite a bit of it. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but this is a plain, and a lot of people do sell these, so you can find these pretty much anywhere. And we're gonna zest the lemon right into the cherries. This counterbalances, I believe, the sweet. Man, this smells so good. I'm such a fan of lemon anyway, so. You know, when I grew up, we were able to eat fresh cherries and all kinds of fresh fruit, you know. We used to climb trees and get apples. Man, we would eat several apples and get stomach aches from eating too many apples. We also had cherry trees. A lot of times the cherries would get picked before they would become ripe. So if you can only imagine eating unripe cherries, that would really give you a stomach ache. But we did it. That's what kids do. At least that's what we did. Those are the innocent good old days before the internet. But the internet's so fun when you can do stuff like this, have your own little cooking show and do fun things that you wouldn't normally do. You know, love to cook, and I cook all the time, and somebody suggested you should share that. Should share some of your crafty ideas. I do birthday parties, and I remodel stuff, and we've just done a variety of different things, and I've missed out on so many different videos, but somebody suggested, you know, you really need to put this on YouTube. So we decided, hey, why not? And so now you're going to need a tablespoon of lemon juice. And I'll be honest, folks, you'll want real fresh lemon juice. You don't want that fake stuff. All right, now there's your lemon juice. And then we're gonna come back in just a moment. We're gonna make a little bit of a slurry with some cornstarch to thicken up these cherries. All right, guys, now we're going to make a slurry with some cornstarch. If you're not familiar with that, slurry is kind of like a roux, only it is a cornstarch version. And I've got a little baby whisk that I'm going to use, this little whisk. I'm going to use it right in here with the microwave. And I'm actually going to add just a spoonful of cornstarch. A tablespoon. And I'm going to add some water to this and microwave it for a couple minutes. Or maybe just mix it. You guys see that? That's cornstarch. Now the difference between a slurry and a roux. A slurry is made with cornstarch and a roux is made with flour. And a roux is used for so many different things. Gumbo, gravies, soups, a variety of things. So I'm going to get some water. I'll be right back and I'll show you how we're going to mix up this slurry. All right, guys, I just added a little bit of water. You see how much. And you're just going to mix it all together. You don't want any lumps, so that's why I've got the whisk. And as you can see, there is no lumps in there. And what you're going to do is we're going to mix this to the cherry mixture. Y'all are going to laugh at me, but this is what happens when you do a real live show. So I was reading the recipe a little bit and trying to follow it a little bit, although we are halving it, so it's kind of going to be Mom's. But I thought we had to cook the cherries down a little bit because sometimes crisp, you do need to do that. But these are frozen, so I dirtied up a pan for nothing. And if y'all know me, I don't like doing dishes. So, and I do so many every day. Every day I'm doing dishes. So we're going to go ahead and take all this out. Doggone it. Wasted a pan. Which I'm going to have to go over there and clean by hand because I'm crazy like that. Get that out of there. Now we're just going to, see, this is nice. This is going to be just enough for our family. If we made the full recipe, this would be huge, like a lot of this. So this is going to be actually very perfect, I think. Oh, y'all, these cherries smell. It smells so good, y'all. All right, so we're gonna just add this little bit of slurry in there. That's just gonna thicken things up so that you actually have not a soupy mixture, like a more creamy texture. And then we're gonna come right back in just a minute. I'm gonna show you how to put the topping on. In the meantime, you are gonna preheat your oven. This is what your cherries is gonna look like before your topping. You're gonna preheat your oven to 375. I've got a hot oven, so I'm gonna preheat my oven to 365. And we're gonna put the topping on, and I'll be right back. We have our crumb topping that you've seen me make earlier, and we're just gonna drizzle that on. Don't have to be perfect with this, you know. We're gonna just drizzle it on. It's, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so good. Her recipe calls for putting a little bit more butter on top. We're not gonna do that because we're trying to cut calories a little bit, but in this recipe, I don't think it's gonna matter. We did cut the sugar down, so that's kind of good. And I think I'm gonna put some more almonds, thus the name Cherry Almond Crisp. Look at that. There you all. That is going to be so delicious. Could have used some more oats, but I did have the recipe, so that's okay. Now we're going to add, I'm just going to add some more almonds on top. Not too much, just to make it pretty. This is what it's going to look like prior to going in the oven. And this is going to go in my oven at 365. Your oven, it should go 375. My oven's really hot, so I kind of always cut the temp back 10 degrees. I don't like things burning. So we're going to come back. You're going to leave that in your oven for 20 to 25 minutes until you see it bubbling. And a little golden brown around the edges. And we'll come back and show you when it comes out of the oven. And to make this even more perfect, you're going to want to have some Bluebell ice cream. And all you Texans know what I'm talking about. But today, to save calories, we're not going to use ice cream. I know, boo. But we're going to use whipped topping just to save some calories. So, and some fat. So, but we're getting dessert still. So, hey, we're doing good. All right, so we're going to come back with the finished product. Hey everyone, here is what it looks like when it's finished. You can see some of the almonds are slightly brown. It's bubbling on the edges. Like I said, this would be really excellent with some Bluebell vanilla ice cream. But we are taking a break from ice cream for a while. And we're going to use whipped topping on that. But I wanted to tell y'all, thank you so much for watching the video Cherry Almond Crisp And this is pretty large. It looks like there's at least 4 to 6 generous servings in this pan. So I do appreciate y'all watching. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you're not a member of our channel yet. And you can hit that bell for notifications of future videos. But we thank y'all for watching.